S is it's pronounced Bruschweiler, Sr. He's a quadri-linguist and subject matter expert, possessing wide-ranging linguistic proficiency. He's fluent speaker, reader, and writer in English, French, German, and Italian, and a basic speaker of Russian. He's an expert in counter-terrorism and national security issues. He has over 30 years of experience operating in Europe, the Middle East, and North Africa. Results-oriented security executive, analyst, strategist, and problem solver with extensive expertise and achievement in complex domestic and international security and intelligence situations in a range of venues. And with that, I will bring up Mr. Bruschweiler. Thank you.
Thank you for that nice introduction. First of all, I will not ask the standard speaker's fee of $500,000. Nor will I accept any donation to our foundation. If you agree, I'll start briefly with a short history of terrorism as we know it today. It all started in Moscow in the 1960s. At that time it was called the Government People's University. It was renamed on February 22nd, 61, the People's Fight for Independence, Patrick Lumumba. You will be surprised by the notables who graduated there. First of all, in importance, Ilch Ramirez Sanchez, known as the Carlos the Jackal. He is right now in jail in Paris. Our dear friend Mahmoud Abbas, who is the chairman of PLO and president today of the Palestinian Authority. The others are less known, like Porfirio Robo, known as Pepe Robo. He was the ex-president of Honduras, and so on. This is just to show you where and when it started. There is a possibility, if you want, if you're interested in some of the events which took place in the 60s, 70s, and 80s in Europe and in the Middle East. I'm willing to talk about it, but I think that we should also concentrate on what is going on right now in our country. Let's start with what happened, what is commonly known as the Arab Spring. Arab Spring didn't start with Tunisia and then Libya, Algeria, and then Cairo. It started much earlier. The planning was done even before our dear friend Barack Hussein Obama was elected. As far as we can figure out, all this was planned by what I call the Gang of Chicago. I personally say that Obama is a puppet. How? He's being handled by Valerie Jarrett. Valerie Jarrett, on one hand, has Barack Hussein Obama, and on the other hand, controls John Ketchup Kerry and Eric Holder. They are doing what has been decided years ago before Obama was elected. Now, to make a long story short, I personally resent the fact that we all became repeat offenders in 2012. There was no excuse that nobody made background checks before Obama was elected is a disgrace that can be explained. There's a certain gentleman called George Soros, and George Soros, with money, controls the media. I would say that 90 to 95% of our media is totally controlled by Soros. That brings me to the fact that, first of all, I want to ask you one thing. If you have a question, don't wait till the end. Just raise your hand, ask it, and I'll try to give you an answer. If I don't know the answer, I'll be honest enough to tell you I don't know, period. Yes, sir.
Intelligence in our foreign affairs and our government seems to be a misnomer, because I look at instances like Benghazi and more recently Bill Omar. The man's been dead for 2 years and we didn't even know it. So how much intelligence do we have? I just feel like we're a bunch of clowns on the national stage lately, and I would like to be reassured somehow that somebody somewhere knows what they're doing.
Somewhere, somehow, someone
On our
is,
side, on our side.
but it's not us. It's well kept undercover, and we will not be privy to have that kind of information. I can tell you, I want to point out one thing. The kind of answers I'll provide you with, I cannot, certain elements I cannot tell you about, but what I will be telling you are open source information, not easily obtainable, but it's open source. That means it's not covered by secret, and it does not endanger anybody. To give you the discussion you asked about Benghazi, which is one of the major topics right now. Benghazi, what is known, came out, was a platform to provide weapons to Syria via Turkey. Our ambassador there was, or had a dual role. He was working for the State Department and for the agency at the same time. To come to the fatal night, the attack on both our facilities, the consulate and the annex of run by the agency, was undertaken by a group infiltrated from Egypt and directed under strict orders from Morsi. The entire operation had a non-preventable outcome. The outcome should have been to take our ambassador as a hostage and to exchange him for the blind check. It went sour, and that was the outcome. To a certain extent, why the cover-up, I think is quite understandable, but you have to just remember our administration's position when Morsi was deposed and jailed. We went on and on and on asking for his reinstatement as president of Egypt. John Kerry went down there, our friend McCain, all went and asked Sisi to get Morsi out of jail. Why? Because that was part of the famous plan of the Arab Spring. The Arab Spring was guided and switched on from here in order to change the rulers of Tunisia, Algeria, Libya, and Egypt, and replace them with individuals part of the Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood has infiltrated our government to a large extent, and that is what a group of friends of mine, we produced a document which is called the Betrayal Papers. It's available freely. You can download it from American Report site. It's a document which quite comprehensive, and it takes about 3 hours to read it entirely. That doesn't mean that the first time you read it, you will understand it. It touches practically the infiltration of the Muslim Brotherhood and all the deviant actions done by today's administration. You have to understand, yes.
Back to the media, I've watched and been very involved in the political and what's going on, neither here nor there. But I feel very strongly that the media knew what Obama was, but they didn't bring it out. They knew what Clinton was. They knew that Clinton was a womanizer. They didn't bring it out. They knew, and this is what upsets me, because I know they are controlled not only by Soros, but by the establishment, by the Council of Foreign Relations. They are, and this is what's upsetting. It's just like, God forgive me, Jeb Bush. There are things about him they should bring out, but they're not going to, because
Okay,
they want
excuse me, where is the question?
The question is, the media is the ones that.
But we covered that already. Let's go a step further. Yes,
Were you part of SHAPE, sir, while you were time in Europe?
beg your pardon?
Were you part of SHAPE, Supreme High Court of the College Europe?
I didn't understand the question.
Were you part of SHAPE in Europe?
Shame.
SHAPE.
Yes, I worked with, yes.
Ah,
No,
okay.
okay.
That was just my question, because you mentioned you were in intelligence for 30 years.
I worked with the intelligence in Western Europe, with Germany, England, France, Italy, Spain. The fact that we did not background check Obama before his election, that's where the problem started. And the problem was, I mean, it's very simple to understand. The media was part of that cover-up, and it still is that way. In order to give you the exact background of why that happened in 2007, 2008, we have to go back to what I call 1968, the flower people, the exit of Vietnam. From that moment on, I think that the entire spectrum of the political spectrum in the United States started to change slowly. It started out by taking over slowly, piece by piece, what I call salami technique, the media, and more important so, the academia. We have to understand that this is, I have personal experience with my daughter. She fortunately graduated, now it's over the whole thing. But The academia today, as far as I'm concerned, is creating and generating the next idiots. I'm sorry to say that. That's very simple. So our duty now is to change that back again. It's going to be very difficult and it will take time. It won't happen overnight, and it won't happen with one election. It will be a step in the right direction if we win 2016, depending who we manage to bring in the White House. Whoever, if it's going to be on our side, is going to have a hell of a job to put the train back on the right track. It usually, this kind of repair job, what I call, takes usually about 4 to 6 years. If everything works out all right. It's going to be a monster job. Now, coming back, yes?
You mentioned this incident back in 1968. My question is this. I've been a life member for the National Rifle Association. Since then, and in 1968 is when they passed that draconian, whatever you say, gun law. 1968 is when they really started all this stuff. They had to sign for a box of 22 bullets even. I think they've done away with that. But in your experience, do you remember anything brought up at that time about the gun control thing? Because it seems to me it fits into the same picture. Disarm the people and you've got it.
Yeah, but at that time it was very difficult because, I mean, you see the problem the nation was facing at that time was multifaceted. There was the flower movement, there was the return of Vietnam, all the movement against the military establishment, and the veterans suffered from that.
But my question is, were you involved in that in any way? Did you ever hear anything, how this gun control issue was incorporated into that movement? You understand my question?
Not that I can say, because you see, at that time I was in Europe and the Middle East. So for me, it's from hearsay and then coming back by having friends briefing me on that. But it's, for me, that's a little bit difficult. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
Now, to come back to our today's problems, the outcome of the failed, that I call it failed Arab Spring, failed from Barack Hussein Obama's point of view, and administration, resulted in something which is quite phenomenal. It changed the geopolitical map in the Middle East, totally. People who were enemies before suddenly became bedfellows. I'll explain that. Take, for example, Egypt, or even better, Saudi Arabia and Israel. Before the Arab Spring, they were officially enemies. Officially. There was already some undercurrent going on, and I can tell you that the intelligence apparatus of Israel, Saudi Arabia, and Egypt, long before, sat at the same table in Vienna, in Geneva, in London, in Paris. They understood that our administration was retreating from the scene in the Middle East. To give you an example, which is incredible, today, Saudi Arabia is buying the Iron Dome system from Israel.
Wow.
That shows you. We played a very bad card with Sisi. We blocked shipments of weapons and funds. Sisi received a visit by our friend Putin, and they signed an agreement that the Russians, from that moment on, had naval facilities in Egypt. Now it seems that we're trying to patch it up and that we're supplying again weapons and the money. Money-wise, during the revolt in Egypt, where Morsi, leading figure of the Muslim Brotherhood, Morsi was given 8 billion B by our government. To do what? To give parts of North Sinai to Hamas and the people from Gaza in order to create a Palestinian state. Never happened. Strangely enough, the 8 billion disappeared, obviously. So now, today, after what I call we threw Mubarak under the bus, the various countries in the Middle East started to understand that they couldn't count on us any longer. And what they did then, they started, for example, you have to understand that Saudi Arabia has a huge problem. And we have to be extremely careful what happens in the near future with Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia, the royal family is Sunni. 70% of the population is Shiite. So therefore, the Shiite population in majority backs Iran. And this is where we have the problem in Yemen. Yemen, if everything goes all right, at the end of the day, we will be back to what we had long before. We had the North Yemen and South Yemen, with Sana'a and Aden. The one which will be on our side will be the south, with the capital of Aden, which is the most strategically important place, which controls the entry to the Red Sea. Saudi Arabia, because of the large population, Shiite population, had already for a number of years 70,000 soldiers from Pakistan in Saudi Arabia. So the royal family was paying Pakistan in order to keep those 70,000 soldiers to, officially it's in a police status. On top of everything, Saudi Arabia, years ago, that's not recently, bought nuclear weapons from Pakistan. Pakistan is still keeping those weapons they bought in Pakistan, but the ownership is Saudi. So therefore, we have already a new, let's call it a new nuclear state in the Middle East. The next one will be, according to the so-called agreement with Iran, will be the next one. If you want, I gave you some background on that famous Iran nuclear agreement. John Kerry, his daughter of his first marriage, married an Iranian. on top of everything, the best man to that wedding was the son of the Iranian chief negotiator. So that, in my opinion, calls that John Kerry should have never been the negotiator. This is ridiculous. It's that's what I call all in a family. But you see, this, okay, it comes out, and what is being done? Nothing. This is where I personally get upset about things like that. This is, I mean, taking us for idiots. Yeah, okay, but then, where's the uproar? Nothing. We are sheep. I'm sorry. So what is the agreement, the so-called agreement? First of all, we should have had access to all the documents which were seized in the raid when we killed Bin Laden. We still have no access to all the documents, and it's a pile of documents. And from what I heard, that's still open source, a lot of the documents pinpoint of the involvement of the Iranian government in all the problems we're having, starting with 9/11. Iran was involved. Yes.
Who has those documents now, if we don't have them?
Beg your pardon?
Who has the documents that you're talking about?
The agency.
CIA?
Yes. CIA and DIA. But it's covered, and nobody has access. Not even the agents of the agency. They know it exists. Some of them, yes, sir.
You've identified a good many puppets.
Beg your pardon?
You have identified a good many puppets
Yeah.
all over the world and all over our government and all over these agreements and everything like that. Who is the puppeteer? Who? What? Soros is just one guy. He's
The
not
puppeteer,
smart enough.
It's a much larger
Is it
picture that you have
bankers?
to look at.
Is it bankers?
You see, it is a religion. I hate to call Muslim a religion. It's not. It's a political party. But what the Muslims, the Shiite Muslims, are trying to re-establish a global caliphate. I have a friend who works in the Spanish Guardia, which is the Guardia Civil, which is the police, and he interviews people crossing from North Africa. And the first thing they say, we're coming back. Because remember, the Caliphate went half of Spain, Andalusia. And for a Muslim, once you have been somewhere, it's theirs forever. Another thing which will surprise you, you remember very recently, a year or two ago, after the new Pope came into the picture, he had a multi-faith reunion at the Vatican. One of them was an imam. And the imam, in Arabic, declared that it was his, in name of the Muslim religion. So it's, this was a question? No. You see, this is, a lot of people ask me, yes, but how come then the Shiites are fighting with the Sunnis? That's it's, you have fights inside the family. It's nothing new. The stronger party will win at the end. That's their way of interpreting the whole thing. And what they want is total dominion of all religions. According to them, there should be only one religion, Muslim. All of us are infidels, according to them. This is why the fact that our administration has been penetrated to the extent it has been penetrated is extremely dangerous. And that, I just hope to God that come 2016, we can get rid of that stuff, because I mean, all those people have to go. You see, all Obama's so-called tsars do not go through a background check. And he puts them in key position. Hillary, her friend, Uma, she's here in the United States. She was the second in command of the Muslim Student Association. Her parents, her mother, is the number one of the Sister Brotherhood in the world. And she has access, as we know now, to all the traffic, State Department traffic that Hillary had. A little joke. They asked us, how come the next morning after Benghazi, it's a known fact, Hillary overslept the intelligence briefing, which takes place at 10 o'clock in the morning. I said that she was in the arms of Uma.
Well, her nickname is Hillary's girlfriend.
Beg your pardon?
Huma's nickname at Andrews was Hillary's girlfriend.
Yes.
Isn't Jared Iranian?
Beg your pardon?
Jared, isn't she Valerie Jared, isn't she Iranian?
Valerie Jarrett is of origin, she was born in Tehran, yes, in Iran. Yeah, but you see, that is, it's a long, long story. You have to read in the Betrayal Papers that the whole, what we call the Chicago gang. It's mind-boggling. Yes?
A lot of us here know a lot what you're saying. Is there anyone in our government who we can count on who knows enough what you're talking about to do something about it? And what are they doing and why not?
Whoever tries to do something, and they have been
Like
individuals, they have been immediately fired.
Yeah.
Why do you think that the armed forces today are at the level of 1949? All the good brains and good people have been eased out, dehired. The moment you do not play the music according to the administration, you're out. This is today's reality, unfortunately. And this is why, and this is not only in the armed forces, in the intelligence community, in everywhere. It's all the same picture.
Then we're living in a terrorism, I mean, we're not free.
Now, we're living in practically under a dictatorship.
Right.
The administration has absolutely no regard to the Constitution. For the Constitution, for them, it's a piece of paper. Has absolutely no value. And unfortunately, nobody is in a position to challenge that. Whenever there is a little rumor that it will be challenged, out. Examples are, yes?
Can our congressmen or senators do anything about this?
Beg your pardon?
Can Congress or the Senate do anything? I mean,
The only way we can put the house in order is
to get rid of most of them.
yeah, but okay, but you see, we have to do it in what I call a democratic way, through the vote. So therefore, this is why 2016 is crucial. This time it's really crucial. There is absolutely no fooling around. But there is one thing which I would strongly recommend, and I know that I surprise people when I say that. When we start to select candidates, let them background check everything. Once satisfied, you sit down with him and you tell him, you are going to sign a pledge that if and when you are elected and you go either to Tallahassee or to Washington, you're not going to change.
Yeah. Good luck.
I'm sorry. Yeah, but okay, but this is the solution.
Good.
Yeah, yeah.
Because you see, the moment they arrive in Washington, at the beginning, they try to make some waves, then the big guns come and say, hey, come on, don't rock the boat. You're gonna get a piece of the cake, you're gonna be quiet, and that's it. Today, it's all money talks. Yes?
I just can't believe, I believe that there's a large part of the puzzle missing that we just don't know. An 8th century culture, like the Muslims today, have overtaken a country that landed a man on the moon, most highest technology. I just cannot believe that they could, living out of a cave, thinking like cavemen almost, with their violence and that we could just lay down and let them roll right over us unless there's something we don't know. There's something going all the way back to McCarthy. McCarthy said the government was taking over. I think he was right. And then we refused to win the Korean War.
First we had the Soviets trying to take over, and then we had the Muslims. And how we, to fight that?
We refused to win the Korean War, the Vietnam War, and we just, something happened back there.
Talking about wars, I hope not to offend anybody. But I say, the only way you enter into a war is to win.
Yes.
Hold. Today, the last time we won a war was World War II. All the rest afterwards, to win a war is total surrender. Sign on a piece of paper and apply it. All the rest, all those internal intrigues, machinations, the left, right. Take the best example now with the Iranian nuclear agreement. Yes, but we have special agreements done by Vienna, the International Atomic Energy Commission, which are totally secret. What kind of agreements are that? And we accept that. And now yesterday, he threatened the Senate, if they don't vote in favor, Israel will be on a chop. This is today's what is going on. This is why, in my opinion, I repeat myself, the next elections are crucial. You see, it's going to be what I call a clean revolution. We have to go through that. Because people tell me, you can't go like this. It's a democratic, first of all, democracy was invented by the Greeks. And democracy is not one man, one vote. Let's be very honest.
The Republic.
Okay?
Let's.
Let's, here, first of all, there are people who falsify elections. One. And nothing is being done about it. Today, I hope that you won't be offended. I picked up a speech given by Jeb Bush in Spanish, in which he said, I'm talking about 6 days ago. He said that if elected, he will grant amnesty to 10 million illegals. Carefully. He is at the school of the Arabs. Yasser Arafat was a specialist in that. He gave us in English a fantastic speech, oh great, this and that. The same speech in Arabic was exactly the opposite. So I wouldn't like that Arafat was a good teacher. There's nothing to do, I'm not attacking here Jebos. Yes.
Go right ahead.
We don't mind, please do.
Please do.
Oppose that.
Let me tell you,
Yes.
I've been a member of the Tea Party, and we marched, we paraded, we did many things, and we were very successful in 2010. We were so successful that they were afraid, and what was it? It was the American people taking back their government. It was every race, every religion, every financial group, it was Americans. The only thing they had in common was that they wanted their country back. And what did they do? They character assassinated us with religious fanatics, Nazis, blah, blah, da, da. And when that didn't work, what did they do? They brought out the big guns, the IRS. And that stopped us in the 2012 election. And how do you fight that?
You see, that's one side of the problem in 2012. The second is more dangerous.
That was
They're more
illegal
dangerous.
election.
No, at 2012, we got both sides. We had them. And what did we do?
Nothing.
Nothing. They voted again of what the promise was. I call that prostitutes. I'm sorry.
What did they do in 2012?
They didn't do what when we got.
We got the Senate and we got everything. And then whenever Obamacare was voted in, everything was voted in, was again promised, no, we're going to raise hell. Raise hell what?
It was Republicans in the Senate and the Congress that were Tea Party members that they.
Those are rhinos.
I know
There's
that.
more to the
It's
picture, but there's
establishment.
something missing. What are we missing?
Money.
Honesty.
Honesty.
The money's gonna run out.
Yeah, well, not for them.
Well, not right.
Yeah, that goes on ad infinitum.
Let him talk.
You can just try to figure out the amount of money those people made since 2012. Yes.
Are the members of the Bilderberg group controlling things?
Of course. Of course.
Yeah.
Establishment.
Henry Kissinger is one of the members, and he's frequently at the White House.
What? Yes.
Sir, listening and knowing what we do know and what you have told us, and then you're alluding to what we don't know and you can't tell us. How do you feel our chances are of turning this thing around? How?
You see, this is why there are sometimes I have sleepless nights.
I can't believe it.
I tell you, turning, it's a spiral. We have to get out of that spiral. And the only way is to put all our efforts from now on in order to be on a winning side for 2016. There's absolutely no other solution. Yes.
We voted, and the Republicans took over the majority in both houses, and what have they
That's what
done?
I told
Nothing.
you. That's what I told you before. But you see, now you have to sit down with those people and that they have to sign a pledge that they cannot turn around at 180 degrees and what they promised and not keep.
Ted Cruz is one of the few that's done exactly what he said he was going to do.
You're here.
It's a terrible problem, I know.
He even
But,
called the
yes.
speaker a liar.
I'm a
And he
big
was.
extraction. My ancestors lived They know what these people are out, they wanna kill the infidel. If you do not become Muslim, what did they do over in the East? How many Christians have they killed? And this is what they're doing here in America, and we don't do anything about it. We're not supposed to say anything against the Muslims. And all these temples they have, they'll snap their finger, the mosques, and they'll come out and they will conquer. That is their mission in life, to make the whole world Muslim.
There are no good ones.
I mean, they're uncivilized.
But you see, it goes even deeper. We were trying, there was a case very recent with the elections in England, in the UK. Obama and Valerie Jarrett sent their friend David Axelrod as a consultant. He got paid $500,000, and the party he was supposed to help lost. So I said to my friends in England, why don't you ask the $500,000 back? You see, if it goes on like this, I think that the UN is another problem we didn't touch up now. But in my opinion, it's a monument to hypocrisy, and will have the same finale as the League of Nations. It will disappear. What we should do is tell the UN to close shop, give them a piece of land in Haiti, and that's it.
That's it. Amen.
And we will have a hell of a lot less problems.
Amen.
And a lot less money.
A lot more money.
A lot more money.
For us.
Yeah. So what subject would you like that we touched on? I think we did almost 180 degrees. Yes?
What's your thoughts on the different contenders for the party who might be the best, can do the best job at this point?
I won't touch that. No, it's a, you see, this is a, no, it's, I tell you one thing. Traveling around and talking to groups like yours, I feel a very strong current that people do not want to have what we call dirty politicians back in the game.
Amen. Amen.
They realize that that doesn't work. Promises are broken and nothing happens, quite the opposite. Since 2012, we went deeper into problems instead of coming up. Yes?
The growth of China as a world influence is, of course, something we're all watching. The expansion of their navy, the saber rattling with their expansion of the Spratly Islands that they're trying to develop for expand their military influence. But economically, you see them ingratiating themselves in Africa. What's your view on where China is headed and what their long-term goals are?
China, I mean, this is, I think you're under the influence of the media here. China does, let's put it that way. Let's go back a couple of years. China started to send economic delegations to various countries in Africa and in South America. Very successfully, they had the money, and they set up shop. Nobody can deny that, and nobody can block them. It's part of the game. From a military standpoint, they listened and looked at what Vladimir Putin was doing. Vladimir Putin You have to understand, Vladimir Putin, first of all, wants to bring the glory back to Mother Russia. And I'm sorry, that's his desire, and he does it. Now, that he finds that we do not react, then he says, okay, I go on. That's exactly the same step now China is doing in the South Sea. You see, today, we're the laughing stock about. Nobody takes us seriously. Remember when Obama and John Kerry said the red line in Syria will be red line passed, nothing happened. Ukraine, red line passed, nothing happens. So therefore, I mean, you cannot blame the other side. If we would be on their side, it would be the same thing. I'm sorry. And this is why I said the geopolitical situation in the entire Middle East has totally changed. It's finished. I mean, we don't count there. They don't listen to us. They have nothing to take. One of the worst examples recently was the day when that Jordanian pilot was in a cage and burned. That day, King Abdullah was in the White House asking for weapons. He was his request was denied. Now, do you expect that a country like Jordan would? And Jordan is one of our most valuable allies in the intelligence area. They do things which we can just dream about. And this is the kind of answers we gave to him. Yes?
The question, but with the Jordanians especially, the majority of their population has sided with ISIS. And that's the confusion that I'm having is, on the one hand, you have ISIS fighting Iran, Iranian generals now in Iraq fighting ISIS too, and now we're involved with agreements with Turkey to fly to Insular Air Base to bomb ISIS. I mean, what is really going on there? I mean, it's not black and white, I understand that. But they're all, I mean, to me, they're all evil and they should all just be wiped out, period. But the reality is
Turkey is a slightly different problem. Turkey does not want to have a Kurdish country. That is out of question from their point of view. We do not have a clear conscience with the Kurds. We betrayed them on and on and on. Now you have to understand, a lot of people tell me, okay, Iraq. Iraq is a lot of the countries in the Middle East are artificial countries. They were created after the end of the Ottoman Empire by clowns sitting down in Paris and in London, having never been in the Middle East, and just drawing on a map straight lines. I can give you examples out of personal experience. Villages separated on one side, one country, and on the other side, another country. So it's out of question. Coming back to Iraq. Iraq, the area, the geographical area we call Iraq, is composed of 47 tribes. To give you as an example, Libya has 3 tribes, and we have a problem. They do not, but when we march in there and we tell them, oh, we have to have democracy. First of all, for them, democracy is an empty word. They don't understand it, they don't want to understand it. That's not the way they've been used to live. So therefore, it's alliance to the strongest body, the strongest shape, call it whatever you want. That was the case, for example, with King Idris. I was in Libya I was in Libya 2 weeks before the overthrow by Gaddafi. King Idris was sick, went to Athens for surgery, and that little colonel Gaddafi took that term and jumped and made a revolution and took power. And from that moment, but he obtained the alliance because he represented the strongest tribe. We, at that time, I remember, we had still, the son of King Idris is still alive, lives like a pasha in Paris or somewhere in the United States. He never will be able to get back because he doesn't carry any weight. Iraq, Saddam Hussein was the strongest man. And that's how it's a political state. It's a policy state. You keep the population under check. You cannot walk in there and tell them that they have to have normal elections and one man, one vote and things like that. They don't understand it, and they don't want to understand it. That's the problem that we have to, yes.
For that reason, I don't see how they, as a culture, can come over and take over the United States.
It's done with under the umbrella of the religion. Muslim is not a face, it's a political party.
Right, right.
And the guy who calls the shots is the guy who sits in Tehran. We did, let's go back, we did a couple of mistakes there, but the original mistake was Carter when he kicked out the Shah out of Iran. With a stupid excuse, I mean, that's only peanut Carter can do things like that.
The council did that.
Okay, but then the second mistake, the West, I consider myself part of the West. The second mistake was when we listened to what the French told us, that Khomeini is a good man, he's a religious man, you let him go, he's completely on our side, you will see everything will work out all right. He goes back, what do we have? The embassy are overrun. For over a year, we have hostages. So you see, with Iran, two mistakes, one after the other. So, I mean, when do we learn? Now, here again, I can tell you my personal opinion, why we are faced with Barack Hussein Obama, the Cuba deal. We didn't get anything out of the Cuba deal, nothing. We returned them the 5 Cubans. Did we get the guys who, the terrorists who were in Havana? No. So he wanted that in his legacy. In the history books, that's going to be nice. Second is going to be the Iran deal. But that one is going to be a little bit more difficult. Talking about legacy, John Ketchup Kelly has only one legacy. It's the Iran deal. Because he was a traitor, sitting down with the Viet Cong in Paris, and what kind of those Purple Hearts, I have a big question mark. So his legacy is going to be Iran. That's all what he has to show.
Let's hope he doesn't have that to show.
We should put them on an island somewhere. All of them.
Get on lead poisoning.
Okay. Yes.
Right now, we've got this Iranian deal that they're trying to get through Congress. Your reflection on the leadership there, would they do anything they could to destroy the United States?
That could what?
Would they do anything they could to destroy the United States?
They said so.
No, Iran.
Iran said so.
Okay, listen. Iran, we have to look at it from 2 angles. Because there are 2 holes which have to be taken into consideration. One is the Middle East, and not only Israel. It's Israel, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Oman, that part, and Egypt. They are under the threat of Iran, with conventional weapons and with nuclear weapons. We, because of the Iran nuclear agreement, are giving the freedom to have intercontinental ballistic missiles to Iran, which that means United States is under fire as well. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with scenario games. One scenario is whoever, but let's not say who, gets fed up and says, okay, I'm gonna get the Iranians either back to zero or back at least 2 or 3 years. Attack happens. Join it. Because before, long before, years ago, people were saying, oh, but Israel can't do that on its own, it's so far away. And I can tell you that that is long, passé, past history. Azerbaijan is on the Israeli side as a Muslim country. They gave them airport facilities. Today, Saudi Arabia has Israeli planes in Saudi Arabia. So therefore, let's assume whoever gets fed up with Iran, they hammer. Reaction. Iran obviously will hammer missiles to Israel, to Jordan, to Saudi Arabia. In Saudi Arabia, we have US servicemen. Now, people tell me, oh, but the United States won't help. Just imagine, in the news, Fox News or CNN, 8,000 servicemen killed. You don't react. Willing or unwilling, you're gonna do. So that once the whole Middle East explodes.
Marine barracks.
Yes.
But I guess my question is this. Some people say this is crazy kind of thing. But did you read the report that there was a group of people that Congress put in right after 9/11 to research EMP weapons and how that would affect the infrastructure in the United States? Have you read that report? Okay. Then, if Iran, they don't have to have intercontinental ballistic missiles. All they have to do is have 2 Scud missiles on each side of our coast, sent off 2 nuclear weapons above the United States, never hurt anything citywide. But in 1 year, we would have 90% of our population gone because they would either kill each other. There's no infrastructure, there's no food delivery, there's no medicine, there's no hospitals, and that's easily done.
Yes.
So why would we ever let them ever have the ability to have any kind of nuclear weapons?
That's exactly what the question was to begin with, and that the Israelis tried to make that the question understood, but people didn't want to understand it. Yes.
Back to Turkey for a moment. With the Muslim Brotherhood now in charge of both the presidency and the parliament, is the military junta being taken apart? Because I know Turkey used to have the military power, political power, and then there was a civilian power, and whenever they got out of whack, the military came in and slapped them back upside the head. And I'm hearing that's no longer the case.
The Iranians don't need a structured armed forces like you tried to explain, or like what we have. They work with independent, what I call independent agents. Here, it's called lone wolf. It's not lone wolf, it's a wolf pack we are faced today.
Amen.
So therefore, they do not need EMP. The next big action will be worse than 9/11. I'm saying that because the small actions, like we are faced today, like we're practically on a weekly basis, after 9/11 was, according to experts, 6 months. And afterwards, the curve went straight down. So, again, try to understand. I'm not trying to offend anybody. After 9/11, we should have done what we did after Pearl Harbor.
Yes.
Yep.
No.
That's not called concentration camp, it's not called prison, it's called
Win a
some
war.
sort of a camp.
You win a war.
And then we start to weed them one at a time. That's what should have happened then. And not sitting down and saying that Muslim Muslim religion is a non-violent religion.
Great.
Yes.
What do all of the people, including Valerie Jarrett and all of those who are tearing our country apart from their level on up, where do they think they're going to be when we are destroyed? I mean, what do you think their plan is? If they hit Chicago, they'll get a lot of them, and DC, but what is their plan? How do they think
We
they
didn't
will
touch the end goal of Valerie Jarrett. It's a world government. And that is the famous gameplay done by people like Soros. And why do you think that Obama is trying to push a lot of the rules to the UN?
But if they hit us with a bomb, it could get them, or, do they plan to go over there somewhere and live before it happens? Where do they?
No, it will happen, but we won't have a nation like we know it.
Pardon?
We will be part of a world government, and everybody will be dictated by some central point, and that's it. It's the communist, socialist way of government.
But hitting us again worse than 9/11 is just another way of showing us they can
Just another battle.
take care of it.
Intimidation.
Get people in
If
line.
you knew about Agenda 21, are you familiar with Agenda 21 from the UN? Okay, what is one of the things they're trying to do? Environmental, what is it that Obama's pushing? It's from the UN. I mean, it's.
Listen, I think that 2 more questions, and then we break it. Yes.
In your opinion, where could people like us, is there a website or is there something you could recommend so we can educate ourselves? I'm reading your papers now, but I would read much more if I was able to. If I knew where to go.
I would suggest that you stop reading. Use common sense. Common sense has disappeared. Okay? Listen, I'm sorry, can I just emphasize on that? One of the things which, in my opinion, we should all do, and that can be done from tonight or tomorrow morning, immediately. Get back to the family concept. That 1 meal a day is, as a family, with the children, grandchildren, whoever, no cellular phone allowed, and problems are discussed there. I had that applied years ago in our family, and that's how I discovered the disgrace of the infiltration of the academia, because my daughter one day came back and she said, "Daddy, I heard something at school which is exactly the opposite of what I heard at home." I didn't pay any attention. And a couple of weeks later, she comes back and then she says, "Daddy, you have to listen. This is what I heard." I said, "What? Who? What lesson was that? What subject was that?" "History." I said, "Okay. Give me the name of your teacher." She gave me the teacher name. Background check. ex-Air Force intelligence officer, complete leftist. That is what the academia is today. I went to and faced him. He said, "Oh, but you're small-minded. You have to open your mind." I said, "Yes, I open my mind, and I don't like what I see." A couple of weeks later, he said, "Oh, I'm gonna bring a study trip to YMCA." I'm sorry, I mentioned that I should not have mentioned with you. Okay, YMCA at that time was under very bad light in Israel with Gaza, because what they did there is unacceptable. So I said, my daughter is not going to be part of it. She's not going to YMCA. I'm sorry. "Oh, you're still small-minded." "Yes, and I'll stay that way." Okay, one more question and then finish. Yes.
I just wonder, I know you're talking about world situations, but what about our money situation in this country? Is the dollar gonna stay with us? Is that,
You saw what happened in 2008, 2009, the cracker movements. That has, in my opinion, very little to do with politics. That's greed multiplied by 400. And there is no law which can block those, because, I mean, they are always one step ahead, technically speaking, on us.
What good's your money gonna do if you're not free?
I hope that I did not give you nightmares.
I'm afraid you did. We haven't.
You had them before, okay.
All right, thank